guys, and welcome back to Good to Be Home. I'm your host, Paola, and today we're diving into something that I think a lot of us can relate to, which is catching up with old friends. The good parts, the awkward parts, and everything in between. Because let's be real, reconnecting can be both awesome and super nerve wracking. In this episode, we're breaking things down into three big topics. First, we'll talk about the struggle of making new friends as an adult. Then we'll dive into the art and awkwardness of small talk when reconnecting with old friends. And finally, we'll talk about that deep, unspoken mix of craving connection while also fearing judgment and rejection. So grab a cup of tea, coffee, or whatever makes you feel cozy, and let's get into it. All right, so let's start off with something real. Making friends as an adult is hard, right? Like ridiculously hard. When we're in school, friendships kind of just happened. You saw the same people every day. You bonded over shared classes, bad professors, dorm life. And in college, you had clubs, parties, group projects, built in opportunities to connect. But once you're out in the real world, it's like, where do you even meet people? I know for me, friendship started to shift the moment friends graduated college and we got real jobs. People moved away, schedules got busier, and maintaining friendships felt like a part time job in and of itself. And making new friends, it felt like trying to start a workout routine. You know you should do it, but getting the energy to do that is a whole other thing. And let's be honest, workplace friendships, they can be great, but they don't always go beyond surface level. Social media, it makes us feel like we're keeping in touch, but really we're just watching each other's stories. And then moving to a new city, which a lot of us do as adults and post college, making friends is like dating, but somehow even more awkward. I know I'm not alone in this. So if you're out there struggling to form new connections, trust me, you are not the only one. My advice: hobbies. Find things you love doing and surround yourself with people who love them too. I went to a silent book club a few weeks ago, and even though I didn't socialize much my first time, I feel way more confident going back. I also joined a skate club because I'm picking up roller skating again. So, hobbies are going to help you engage with people who have similar interests than you, and it's an easy way to meet people. It's like creating your own club, basically. And if you're hesitant about putting yourself out there, start small. If you see an event online, like on Instagram, check it out, feel it out, and then do it again. The more you show up, the more natural it's going to feel. And if you've been thinking, wow, I wish I had built in community, that's literally what I'm trying to build here with Good to Be Home. And I want you to know that there's space for you here. All right, so let's say you actually do run into an old friend. Maybe you're texting someone who you haven't spoken to in years, or you run into someone at a coffee shop. What's the first thing that happens? That dreaded small talk. It's the, hey, how have you been? Oh, good, busy with work. Yeah, same, life's been crazy. And then silence. Why is small talk so awkward? And honestly, why does it feel like a test you have to pass before you get to like the real conversation? I think part of it is that we're afraid of being vulnerable too quickly. I know that's the case for me. We don't want to overshare, but we also don't want to seem disinterested. It's like a weird social dance, and sometimes it's easier to avoid it altogether. And I'm heavy on the avoid it altogether, especially if you know me personally. You know that I tend to not do things that make me uncomfortable. But as I am recording this podcast and I'm just reviewing all the things I want to talk about, and as I'm growing as a person, I'm realizing that if we don't do things just because we're uncomfortable, we're never going to grow. And small talk doesn't have to be awkward. It doesn't have to suck. Instead of the usual what's new, try asking something unexpected. Like, what's the best thing that happened to you in the last year? Or if you could relive one day from the past 5 years, what would it be? Questions like that shake things up, and it leads to conversations that actually go somewhere. I had to Google good questions to ask, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. I think the point of these questions is that they're open-ended, they show interest, and they allow people to talk about themselves, which, let's be honest, we all love to do. And that's not a bad thing. Part of building connections with someone is letting them in. If you're worried about like the weirdness of reaching out after a long time, just own it. A simple, hey, I was thinking about you today and wanted to check in goes a long way. Most people aren't sitting around keeping score of like who texted who first and who reached out first this time and who didn't do it last time. And honestly, if they are, maybe they're not your people. I have a friend who I always have to text first, and I'm okay with that because she's a great friend. You know, when we're together, she asks about me. She also opens up, and I never feel bad for reaching out. It's hard, but sometimes you have to be willing to do the hard stuff. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it should only fall on you. Please, make sure you're not in like a one-sided friendship, but we're all adults. And if connection is what you want, you have to put in the work, which brings me to my next topic. A lot of us want to reconnect, but we hesitate. Why? Because there's this underlying fear. What if they don't see me the same way anymore? What if they judge where I am in life? Or honestly, and sometimes even worse, what if they just don't want to reconnect with you? And that's probably the hardest one because it's rejection. And the truth is, friendships evolve and so do we. The friend that you were 5 years ago isn't necessarily who you are today, and that's okay. The key is finding people who accept and grow with you. There's also this weird thing where we assume that other people are more social than we are or that they're more put together than we are, but we think that, hey, maybe they don't need me reaching out. But guess what? Everyone craves connection, even the people who seem like they have it all together. So yeah, if you reach out and it doesn't click, that doesn't mean you failed. It just means that friendship served its purpose for a season. And can I be honest? I used to hate that saying. I always felt like it was so disingenuous, but part of me becoming okay with that was realizing that not every old friend is meant to be a forever friend, and that's something we have to be okay with. The fear of judgment and the fear of rejection, they go hand in hand, and nobody wants to be rejected, but when it does happen, it's not a failure on your part. It's important that when these rejections happen, we do things like practice self-compassion and let ourselves process and understand that rejection is not a reflection of our self-worth. Woo, but that's another topic for like another podcast episode because that could be a whole episode in and of itself. So yeah, what's the takeaway here? Making friends as an adult is tough, but reconnecting with old ones doesn't always have to be. Small talk might feel awkward, but it's just a stepping stone to real conversations. And yeah, putting yourself out there can feel vulnerable, but it's part of the human experience. With risk comes reward, and that's just the way that life is. So if there's an old friend that you've been meaning to text, consider this your sign to do it. Or maybe this is your sign to put yourself out there. Get some hobbies, make new connections. You will find your people. I believe that there's someone for everyone. And I don't think that that's just for relationships, like romantic ones. I believe that wholeheartedly for friendships as well. I was actually on Reddit trying to find a funny story to share with you guys about small talk or awkward conversations with friends, and I actually found a small talk cheat sheet on the social skills forum of Reddit, and it basically gives you like pointers on the basic principles of social skills, the right mindset you have to go into it, how to approach people, how to start a conversation, and how to keep a conversation going. It's honestly really helpful. So if this is something that you might find useful, let me know and I can send it to you. Okay, so that's it for today's episode. If you like this convo, make sure to share it with a friend. And if you have a story about reconnecting with an old friend or awkward small talk, send it to me at stories@goodtobehomepod.com. I love to hear about it and share it with our listeners on the next episode. So until next time, stay cozy, stay connected, and remember, it's good to be home.